Yes, hello. Thanks for joining us. It's another edition of Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub, exclusive to the Listener app. And as always, I have a look and I've got a team assembled. We're a bit like Melbourne at the moment. We're just cruising along. Good chemistry, good cohesion, working beautifully. Wayne Carey, Damien Barrett, Daisy Thomas. Good afternoon, boys.
Good afternoon, Joseph. Wayne, Mr. Barrett.
We're going to go back to back, are we, Joey?
Yeah, I think so. We're just cruising along at the moment.
Just doing enough.
Just doing enough, aren't
getting
we?
the wins.
How are you, Duck?
I'm good. I've been down to the markets this morning, actually, South Melbourne markets. That's lovely if you've got two kids under 8, just going through there, pulling everything off their shelves and doing all of that. But been an interesting morning, but really looking forward. Don't you think we've had a good first 4 rounds?
It's been excellent. We've had some really good footy.
And we're starting, and I know you get on your second crack or third crack or whatever it is you do. Every week.
That was great.
You thought it was funny.
Every week. No, but I don't think you can sort the rhubarb with the truth until about round 6.
So round 4 too early.
I think we're still a couple of rounds away before we can sort of determine who are the real, I guess, believers and the pretenders.
Okay, I'll fire some questions at you at the Daisy Duck Dive. You have a different view though, Daisy?
Yeah, well, I just thought after we've had a big enough sample size now that I think there's 3 clear teams. We spoke about it last week, whether Geelong was in that, and I said no. After what I saw against Brisbane, I say yes. So I think there's 3 teams you can trust. Not saying they're going to be that far ahead for the entire season, but as it stands right now, I think Melbourne, Brisbane and Geelong are the ones you can trust week in, week out, to not necessarily win every game, but prepare and present with their best football in front of you. I think Sydney Swans were the other ones I was questioning, and after what I saw against North Melbourne, I don't trust them just yet.
I think it's a fair point. I think it's pretty fair, but there are a lot of teams that's still a lot of footy to play, Duck, and we know teams can get hot at the back end of the season and really improve their game and challenge those 3 teams.
And if you jumped on a tram down here on Clarendon Street and asked Snowy who the 3 teams were, they'd be the 3 that he'd say. So you're not exactly...
well, that's right, isn't it? I mean, it's pretty obvious then that there is a gap between those 3 and the rest, isn't that?
Do you want to wait one more week before you ask Snowy on his tram, Duck?
He loves Snowy on the... I've never met Snowy.
And he loves Pickle Street, because you can't get confidence from there.
Puckle Street, I think. Puckle Street, no, Essendon. No, 4 rounds is way too soon to be start making sweeping statements, Days. Take it from someone who's been around a bit longer than you.
You had 2 coaches sacked last year by round 4.
You're behind me on this.
Absolutely, Duck.
Well,
you might even need 8, I reckon.
Yeah.
8 if you really want. I mean, we all have to have opinions on the run. Don't get me wrong, and I'll have
6
as many
to 7.
bad ones as anyone, but round 4,
Well
please.
done.
What do you reckon another 4 weeks is going to tell us about
A whole lot.
You reckon?
You know what? Have a look at what we say. Record this conversation right now. You have a look what we say after round 8.
Jill,
and then round 12.
Record this. Daisy and I will be very confident Geelong, Melbourne and Brisbane will still be the teams to beat in 4 weeks' time.
Big deal. Snowy on the tram said that. I had them my top 3 at the start of the year. I had Geelong in the grand final. It's not a big deal to say that now, I don't think. But Fremantle's going to press. St Kilda's showing some really good signs. So I think just give it another 4 weeks, shall we?
Go out on a limb.
Well, we're not going to play the other 18 rounds.
too.
No, you've got to still. The teams have still got to play them. They still have to try and win every game. But I think it's just from the outside we feel, and it's pretty right from the start. I think there's a gap. I think everyone wants to have this belief that the competition's so even and everyone can beat everyone. I don't think the competition is even. It's not, Damo.
5th to 15th is even.
Yeah, I reckon 4th's up for grabs. I think there are 10 teams that could finish 4th.
You say that a week ago, you guys are going, "Oh, Carlton are going to win the grand final." And Carlton get beaten by the Gold Coast.
We were adding theatre to a show, Doug. We all knew they were going to gas it.
Team ever to play since
That's your words.
Since the game ever started, they take Sydney to the wire.
West Coast was 3 games out of that with 2 games to go, and you thought they could win the grand final last year, Doug.
West Coast a waffle team, and they knock off Collingwood, who you both said could win the flag 2 weeks ago.
The ball was being bounced at Optus Stadium for a grand final, and you refused to believe it was going to be there.
Well, West Coast proved to me just last week that they can get there again.
Well, you know what? Hey, maybe we should have to start giving Duck his dues, and we'll get into it. But I think, Daisy, it might be time you might have to hand over the Oracle.
Well, let's just listen to this piece of audio first, and then we'll see what comes off the back of it.
Already with Carlton, and as good as they've been, if Cripps goes down, he's the one, isn't he? I don't think there's any other the top teams at the moment that you look at and say, well, if he goes down, they're buggered. But right now for Carlton, you just go, if Cripps was to be injured. Boy.
Well, Doug, it's with great pleasure that I hand the baton over. Wayne Carey, you are the Oracle.
Congratulations.
Oh, here we go. Oh,
there you are. He's anointing him as
very
the Oracle.
good.
Although, Duck, I'm a slightly bit concerned, though, because I'm worried you might be a jinx. Because you spoke about Paddy Cripps, and he's gone down with a hamstring. And on the Sunday rub, Jay-Z's got a new segment, Hits Your Wagon. You have to sort of say something that you want to hold on to all year. And last week you also said Jamie Elliott would be an All-Australian small forward this year, and he's gone and done his shoulder. So can you please be careful
Good point.
who you speak about on this week's show, because we don't want him to go down injured.
Jamie Elliott, that's really sad. And it's good that Cripps' hammy's not as bad as what first thought, so maybe only a week or two. They'll definitely give him 2 weeks if it's just very minor. But Elliott, for me, I think I would argue he is one of the most talented players to have no luck in recent times.
And when he gets injured, he does them seriously.
He does them properly, doesn't he?
A back kept him out of the premiership push. He's had leg injuries. Now he's got the shoulder, the AC.
And normally an AC, you can do ACs and miss a couple of weeks.
Not even
weeks.
miss, jab him up and away you go.
Yeah,
But he must have absolutely obliterated it. Mychek's another big out, obviously, for the Pies as well. He's, although not the most talented footballer, he's the fabric. He's the workhorse who gets up and back, makes others around him better. So tough for them.
He's a great example why you've got to still keep looking at the VFL and players that are at that 24, 25-year age and that they didn't mature.
Bailey Fritsch was another one.
Exactly.
They got out of the VFL.
For certain reasons, they just weren't ready for the AFL system, but they are now.
Especially,
he's a great
especially
example.
2 years of COVID, where some players we haven't seen them, they haven't played, so they get their chance to develop. Speaking of the Easter Thursday night game, you for Triple M are going up to Brisbane. Just quiet night planned afterwards?
On tour? No quiet night. I got Friday off, so I might rip right in.
Damo, plenty of footy news. Where would you like to start?
We might as well start with the big departure announcement yesterday of Gillon McLachlan leaving at the end of the year after what will be 9 seasons in the game. It wasn't a shock that he was leaving, but what was the shock component to it, Duck, was the after round 4 of the 2022 season timeframe around it. I think that's what caught people up and caught people off guard, certainly in that regard. But he's got a commitment to fix and finish a rather large job, that being the collective bargaining arrangements with both men and women. You've got the situation with the club funding model, which is going to be dramatically changed and will ultimately prop up the clubs for the future. You've got the Tassie licence to be resolved. And I still feel between now and probably maybe even next time we speak next week on this show and certainly with inside the 3-week period, I reckon there'll be an announcement around a Twilight Grand Final, 4:30 start time in Melbourne this year, which will be a first for the MCG.
In recent times, there clearly hasn't been a CEO that's gone through what he has had to go through with COVID. So it's 8 years at the top. Add on another 10, I reckon.
Yeah.
For what?
How bad did he look?
The stress levels that he's gone through. And in saying that, those other jobs that he wants to finish before he leaves, they are not small jobs.
No,
they are massive jobs. Yep. In particular, the agreement with the men and the women in terms of what they agree to, that's a massive job. And obviously the rights going forward. So there's a lot of work still to be done, which I guess is why they've done it now. I think it's great, and it gives them time to find the ideal replacement.
Yeah. Damo, has he been our best ever CEO at AFL?
I reckon he has, Joey. Yeah, I mean, there's been 4 only. You go back to the 80s when they became the commission, so to speak, and Ross Oakley was that person. Wayne Jackson took over from him, and then you had Andrew Demetrio, all very different. But
I like Jacko.
Yeah, look, they all had issues to wade through. I mean, Ross Oakley had the most tumultuous period with the merger attempts and other things that didn't come off. And you're right about Gill having to get through COVID, and not just get through it, but then give it hope only just 2 years later. So, yeah, look, Demetrio did things differently. But again, the progress within the time he was there, if you want to go and analyse it down the track, is probably as much gone on in his tenure as anyone's when it's all said and done, given there are a couple of expansion teams that were pitchforked in pretty quickly as well. The legacy for me, though, for Gillon, Joey, is that AFLW piece. I spoke to him late-ish last night, and again, this was played at the time, so it wasn't a new piece of news, but he made the announcement they'd start a women's league before there was a strategy or a plan around it, and he went right against protocol by not actually going through the commission to have that. And once he went public with it, he had no choice but to deliver. It brought the time frame forward, and we've now got the benefit of 6 completed seasons behind it, going into a 7th, and he'll be still in charge when the next one starts in an August time frame with 18 clubs fully aligned to the men's operations.
And they'll get a significant pay rise, whatever that looks like for the women.
Yeah, whatever it looks like. And as Duck said, that's as big a task as he's probably going to have in the 9 years.
I'm sure we'll touch on a lot of those topics throughout the rest of this year, particularly the broadcast rights and, as you said, the CBA for the men and women. What about COVID? It's hit again, this time at St Kilda.
It's so he's now the fourth time it's happened. Michael Voss in round 2. You had Ben Rutten last week. You had Justin Longmuir.
They've all won when the coach has been
and even
out.
Jamie Graham, we're filling in for
Now,
Justin Longmuir
you've
twice.
just-
The importance of
Have
coaches.
you just done your jinx again?
Oh, no.
I reckon you've just done your
Shows you.
jinx.
Shows you how much coaches do.
They've got a big game, haven't they, against the Gold Coast Suns? In a weird way, and if you wanted to really ramp up that game, you could say that's the most intriguing one of round 5. It is from a Gold Coast perspective anyway, and I couldn't have been more impressed with what St Kilda have done after the first round loss to Collingwood, how they've regrouped in the rounds 2, 3 and 4 and look really good in doing it. And to have 4 guys each kick 4 goals last week in a 22-goal return against the lowish club, it must be said, but still a good effort.
That was another big statement after round 1. Everyone was saying, Brett Ratton's going to be replaced by Clarko. And now all of a sudden, St Kilda, oh boy.
They are very good at turning it around, St Kilda. They struggled in the first part of last year, got to the halfway point and found a little bit after the break too. So not sure what happens in there internally, Joey. You might have more insight than us, but they are good at realising a problem. Probably a touch slow last year, but this year, after round 1, because they've clearly changed what they served up in that first week to the last 3 weeks of footy.
Yeah, it's been a good turnaround, and they've done it in different ways, their wins.
Yeah.
They've done it sort of backs to the wall against Richmond and then blew them away.
Big
Freo
out.
was a grind.
Ryder's a big
interstate. Going to touch on Paddy Ryder because last year there was a lot of talk coming out of St Kilda how much they missed Ryder and how important he is, and we've seen since he's been playing they've been winning. So the suspension, I want to get everyone's thoughts on it, but your take first with the two-week suspension.
I've been a big advocate for just protecting the head at all costs, but I just felt, and I think I'm in a minority, I felt he didn't do too much wrong in that particular incident. I've spoken to people who made the decision around the AFL operations, and they're adamant that they've made the right call, and the Tribunal backed them up, didn't it, last night? But I still feel for Paddy Ryder in that moment. I felt that he actually did all he could in that moment. Now, other people have different views, clearly.
Don't agree with it. Don't think he should have been suspended. I will say that he wasn't going for the ball, but he was going to put pressure on. So it was a different circumstance to the other ones that we've seen this year. So it wasn't in a football sense, remembering that he's not going to contest the footy. He's just going in to put pressure on. But I think it was the absolute wrong decision, no doubt. Once again, it's not the action, it's the outcome. If he gets up and plays on, day I'm talking about, then we're not even talking about it.
You're right.
So it's as simple as that. The fact that Ben Brown can play after 1 week, now talk about the action, his action was absolutely terrible, but the fact that player plays on 2 down to 1 is a disgrace. So once again, actually go back to Gill. If Gill wants to fix anything, fix this ludicrous situation that we find ourselves in and the inconsistencies with action over outcome. It cannot, if the action is a really bad action, suspend that. That's when you'll get you don't have to worry about the outcome then.
Now,
Start
we've had this
suspending
chat.
the action.
Yeah, but the outcome's got to come into it.
No, it doesn't.
It does. We had this discussion
Because
earlier
if
about
you
the
hit a
red.
hard
If you
head,
drive through a red light, you get a fine. If you drive through a red light and hit another car, you get more punishment. It depends on the outcome.
No, listen, Joey, the action, Ben
got you
Brown's
there,
action
Duck. I think
was
he's got
10
you.
times. 10 times worse than what Ryder's was.
Yes.
And Ryder's going to miss more games than Ben Brown.
Yes.
Do you agree with that?
Because he
Do you
concussed him.
agree with the action's
So-
worse?
so
What
you
action's
think-
No,
worse?
the
He's
action's
coming
back,
Ben
Joey.
Brown's action was worse.
Thank
I
you.
completely agree.
Done.
You got one back there. It's 15 all.
Yeah.
So do you think he should have got
I'm
2
surprised
weeks?
at people. I think he should have got suspended for that. I mean, I was with you guys with the Rioli and the Robinson stuff. When you're contesting a ball,
But
you're
you're-
allowed to turn to protect it. That one, Will Day was running, kicking, and then Paddy Ryder's hit him after he's kicked the ball. There was no need to do that. There was no contest. They weren't competing for anything.
He was
if
going
Paddy-
in to
if
put
Paddy-
pressure on.
Didn't Day run into him?
If Paddy Ryder doesn't come in and put pressure on, Will Day runs another 5 metres and kicks
Yeah.
it from the centre into...
No, he's not.
Joey.
Daisy. Paddy
If-
Ryder
if
could have
Paddy
put his arms
Ryder-
up. Paddy Ryder could have
If
his
Paddy
palms
Ryder
up. He could have put his
stops, he
hands
would have
out in
run-
front.
He would have run around if he had chase
Joey,
Well, he
pressure.
didn't put his hands out in front.
And then get his head kicked off or get a boot in the rib cage.
Paddy
He's
Ryder-
allowed
Paddy
to
Ryder
protect
chose
himself.
to bump him after he kicked the
He's
ball.
allowed to protect himself.
Paddy Ryder had no need to protect himself. He wasn't in the contest.
Sam Day was going to run straight into him.
Sam Day was going to run. Will Day was going to run into Paddy Ryder.
Yes.
Paddy Ryder initiated that contact. No one can argue that Paddy Ryder instigated that contact.
Anyway, Ben Brown.
I'm surprised that people think that.
I can't believe he got 2 weeks. He stopped and the contact came from the Hawthorn player, which is fair enough. He could come in, but you're well within your rights to come in and put pressure on someone.
Of course you can put pressure on,
So,
I agree.
but if you get in the way of where he's going to kick the ball, obviously there's going to be some sort of collision. He didn't jump and leave the ground.
You can't bump. We know that.
He didn't bump. He got run into. He could have caught him on the way down. You watch it in slow-mo. He's got his hand out like this, like saying sorry before he hits the ground.
Because he knew as soon as he did it, he knew he did the wrong thing.
But he hit him
so
so
apologise.
horse radish.
It's surprise. I mean, I think that was a pretty clear one for me. I thought 2 weeks was a bit harsh.
Who are you on? Who are you on?
Three in the
Nick?
room, three out of the four thought it was harsh.
If that cost you a spot in a grand final for that action, it cost you a prelim and then a grand final.
They're not suspending him
put
for
it this
2
way.
weeks.
How would you feel if that was you just running through the middle of the MCG, kicking the ball, and then
Have
you
some
got knocked
awareness.
out? You
Have
got
some
knocked
awareness.
I would have got up. Bernie Vince shit mixed me on the
would've-
wing.
Hang on.
Have some awareness when you're kicking
No.
the footy. It's right in front of you. He should have protected himself.
What should he have done?
Turned.
But this is
When he kicked the footy,
Yeah.
well, it should have run around him. He's a
Well,
ruckman.
apparently, if he had that much time, you're talking about.
But
By
to
the
the-
way, who are you on the take with this?
no, I'm not on the take with
don't
anyone.
go there. That part.
Come on, this
to
is
the- to the
rhubarb.
So if you were Will Day and you're just kicking the football and you're out of the game and you're going to miss next week, you think,
veer off.
bad luck.
Veer
Will
off,
Day
have some
got up and
awareness.
played the next 5 minutes as well.
That's why I think 2 weeks is harsh. I agree with you on
he
that.
got up and played
Yeah, I know.
5
I
minutes.
agree. So that's where the concussion stuff now, because clubs are being very conservative with concussion, which I think they should be. But that doesn't necessarily mean that the contact was a heavy hit.
No,
because you can
and there's
conservative with
a
concussion.
whiplash component to
Yes,
the
that's
situation
right.
too. I mean, it's in dispute if you actually got him in the jaw or face. So again, I understand the outcome being the basis of the decision, and it's unusual for me to be trying to defend someone who's hurt someone, by the way, because I've long said the action has to be the outcome.
This isn't about. We all agree that you need to protect the head and the concussion.
You got to protect yourself.
But there's also going to be times when it's just a footballing.
But I
So-
agree. The football instance when two people are
Daisy.
competing for the ball, Daisy. There was
so it
one
should be
person that was
Daisy.
kicking it and one guy came and hit him after he kicked it. That's different
I'll
to
make
the Robinson or the Willie Rioli ones where I was a bit more like you're competing for the ball where you hit someone after they kick it.
I'll make it a little bit
There's no
easier
contest.
for you to understand. So once again, I've been saying this for years. So if you hit someone with a hard head,
Yep.
you are safe. If you don't, you are unsafe. So once again, action.
Very good. Right.
That's what should be suspended. And if we do the action, then players will stop doing it.
But what
Do we
about,
all
what
agree
about the
that-
red light thing?
Yeah,
Actually-
that was a bit
actually,
tricky.
We'll
But that's
take
all.
that out.
Do we all agree though the tribunal needs a serious overhaul? We've spoken about it every time. I think we've sat in this. They need to do something because there's still far
In 10
too
years'
much.
time, we'll be doing the same.
There's still far too much grey area though.
I said this last year.
No, there's not. I don't think there's. Well,
Well, there's no grey area. So Willie Rioli versus this, a footballing action still gets
Yeah.
him in the head, but Matt Rao's head's fine.
yeah, because he competed for the ball.
But if
No,
you-
he didn't.
Willie Rioli.
but he
but that's where
he
we
protect-
disagree.
yeah.
No, because Matt Rowell is
I
a
don't think he was
hard
going for the
head.
ball.
But Paddy Ryder shouldn't have got suspended for that. Was he going for? Was he?
No, he wasn't going for the ball.
No.
That's the only thing that,
St
like I
Kilda
said, it
should-
wasn't in a football.
St Kilda should counter
Anyway.
Sue and say that he headbutted his elbow.
All we know is we want to protect players' heads. We don't want players getting concussions and having issues post-football like there are so many players that are. That's the bottom line. So whether players have to adjust and whether they're a bit unlucky, maybe so be it. Hey, that might be it for the news, Damo. I think we've run out of time talking about the
We
concussions.
lost
Is there
a lot of
anything-
time.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to recognise Lockie Neal's 200th. For people around the Brisbane Lions over the last 3 months have been saying he is preparing for this year like no other, and that is inclusive of his 2020 Brownlow medal year. We're starting to see it. He's working through tags, and he's saying it himself on the eve of his 200th game tomorrow night. So, look out, everyone else.
Is that just earning a little bit of respect back that may have been lost in that bid to try and get back home?
I reckon there's a bit of that, Dace.
Which is
I
good.
really
you
do.
like a bloke
Yeah.
who's got a bit of pride.
Yep.
It's the Daisy Duck Dive.
Happy with that? It's been adjusted.
Yeah,
It's now
yeah,
the Daisy
so-
Duck
yeah,
Dive.
I like it.
You've pitchforked yourself into the stinger there.
There you go.
Don't be surprised.
Right. First question. Duck and Daisy. If you were a Hawthorn supporter at the moment, would you prefer to watch the Hawks play the brand they're playing, which is a bit more aggressive and attacking, but conversely see some performances like they dished up against St Kilda? Or would you rather a team that plays a bit more dour, a bit more defensive, but is competitive week in, week out?
Well, I think they've been competitive other than last week. They got blown away, so it fell apart for them in that situation. But I've enjoyed the way they've played. I'd much prefer the way they've been playing this year.
Couldn't agree more. Yeah, go out, play, risk the fact that every now and then you'll get those inconsistencies in performance that we see with teams with a lot of young players. But to beat Port Adelaide by 10 goals and then to potentially get rinsed by 10 goals a few weeks later, very competitive against the Blues, I think it's exciting for Hawks fans, and they'd all agree that that's how you'd want to play, rather than the probably Collingwood model we saw for a couple of years where it was 45, 54 at the end of the game and you're in it for a long time, but it was boring as batshit.
Speaking of the Collingwood model, the second question is, has the sugar hit peaked for Collingwood? Are they on the way down from this little sugar hit, or are you still optimistic that they could potentially be a finals team?
I'm worried about guys like Elliott being injured, to be honest with you. I think they've got to have everything go perfectly for them in terms of injuries. And I think it's just a little bit of a reality check. Plus other teams looking at the way they've played the first few rounds, which is why I always say that it takes 6 or 7 rounds before we can get a really good line on where teams are at.
I think they perfectly overachieved in the first couple of weeks, which has bought them some time now going forward. If they do serve up some results like that, it's not a huge issue. De Goey and Adams out were obviously huge on the weekend, exposed a little bit of the underbelly and a lack of depth, if you will, in that hardened, big-bodied type.
Question 3, we're just going to start with a bit of audio on this one, Jill, and then I'll pose the question.
It's not ideal for them, but they're a team for me. So I think they'll go 0. I'll be tipping Melbourne, but I think Port Adelaide are a team that can string 7 or 8 wins on the trot. So they might be 0-4, but they will get on a roll at some stage. Therefore, I still think Port Adelaide will play finals footy this year.
Sticking to your guns, Duck, will Port Adelaide play finals from Zip 4?
Like I said then, they would get beaten by Melbourne, and they're now 0-4, and they will still play finals, in my opinion.
Was it disturbing how they lost?
That's the question.
Well, they were in the. They tried something different. They were in the game. I guess when you're going up against the best, if you just go in with what you knew, with I guess personnel that they had, I'm glad they tried something. They didn't get blown away. They were in the game for a fair portion of it, but I stick by the fact that they will, like I said, they'll play finals, and it has history. There's 2017, the Sydney Swans went 0-6, and they got on a roll and played finals footy in that year. So I think Port Adelaide are a better team maybe than that team, so I think they can do it.
Sydney went 14-2 their last 16 games to play finals, and they got beaten in the semi-final.
This week is Port Adelaide's grand final. It's only round 5, but if they go zip and 5, they're as good as toast. They need to get something going, not just a win, but also...
Do you think they can play finals?
I do, yeah, and I think they'll win this weekend as well. They need to manufacture something.
So you want to hitch your wagon or whatever it is to Duck?
yeah, you can hitch your wagon to Duck, who's hitching his wagon to the Port Adelaide playing finals.
Yep. We'll be one of those big
road
trains.
Here's just a little quick one. Who is more important to Carlton, Paddy Cripps or Mark Pittonet?
Yeah, Paddy Cripps by a long way to Pittonet.
Okay.
I would take your long way with my road train and add about another 1,000 kilometres.
Just thought they got a good midfield that maybe they could survive without Cripps, but without Pittonet, they got exposed in the ruck pretty badly.
De Koning can go in there. He's only young and learning his way, but you can replace a ruckman who's 7 foot tall and doesn't kick it that often. You can't replace a bloke
Did
who
you
has
ask that
35
question
and
because
kick
you
4.
thought that was
Well, I thought
the answer?
Pittonet was a huge out for them against Gold Coast. Jared Witt's dominated, and that's what that affected the Carlton, put him on the back foot.
We're getting a bit carried away with ruckman still.
Yeah, fair enough.
There's a few ruckmen we should get carried away with, and Pittonet's not in that category just yet. But yeah,
there is. Hey, last couple of quick ones. Are you a believer in St Kilda? Do you believe the way St Kilda are playing, they will play finals?
Not convinced yet, Joey, but love what they're doing. And as you said off the top of the show, they're doing it in a different way. I've done it in a different way. I would love to just back over a little thing that you were talking about Max King. I would love to see. He's been very good in a couple of last quarters. Had a quiet game on the weekend. Got a couple in the last quarter again when the game was over. I'd like to see him live up to the hype and grab a game at the start of the game. First quarter. He has to get his team off to a good start, not just tune in when things are sort of sometimes over.
Still 5th to 15th for me. So, yes, I can see them playing finals, but if they finish in that 8th to 15th spot, wouldn't surprise.
Okay, what about Freo? Are you a believer in Freo or not yet either?
Much the same. I think that's the most even part of the competition as we spoke about. You can put a blanket over 10 teams there.
Yeah, I think you put Freo and St Kilda in the same basket. We just don't know yet. Do they have the ability to? Is their best good enough? Yes.
And I want to see Freo beat someone of some serious quality first. They've had an easy draw and you can only beat what's in front of you, but until they beat someone who is a 5th to 1st position, then I'll start believing.
Well, they've got the Bombers at Marvel. We'll find out whether you think that's a scalp, because we'll have a chat about the weekend's footy. The Easter weekend of footy, always great. We'll look at that next on Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub. We're going to take a look at these rounds action, but before we do, we always like to hold ourselves accountable. Take a look back last week. Daisy, you fell flat with Brisbane. You were very confident they'd do a number on Geelong. Duck and I just tipped the Cats at home. We thought the Cats would be too good. We got that one right.
Yep, financially invested as well, Joey.
Did you?
Yeah,
no good.
no good.
We all tipped the Western Bulldogs. in hindsight, we sort of thought Richmond no good, but they came back to bite us.
Well, they didn't kick straight.
St Kilda, we all tipped the Saints. And then I just want to play this one from the Essendon-Adelaide game because we had some different takes.
The other tricky one, Joey, is I reckon is Essendon-Adelaide. Adelaide will get a lot from that, and they may get Tex back. Is it Tex?
Yeah.
May come back into the game. We don't know that as of yet. I think that's a danger game.
Surely Essendon are morals, aren't they? Back at Marvel Stadium.
Essendon and morals?
Yeah,
not
Essendon
a
and
word I'll
morals.
be using.
I think I was right, Duck. I think I was right. They
think
were
you're
morals.
Required a Mason Redmond bark in the last second to save him.
And anyone
Hey,
but
Duck, I
Ben
think I was
Keys
right.
kicking an
I
inside
think
forward
exactly.
50, they would have lost.
I was right,
I
Duck.
think exactly what I said was right.
I think I was right. No, they were morals. No, with that.
I wouldn't have said that with a minute to go.
No, it was a bit closer than I thought. So we're not convinced on the Bombers yet.
Tex kicked 4, by the way.
Tex was very good.
18 disposals and had a chance to kick the kick the
Strange
winner.
that he wasn't confident to go back and kick it.
Should have kicked the
was it?
top.
Because that's his distance with a drop punt. He
Yeah.
might have been running out of puff by then.
Bit of fatigue.
Yeah.
in
If
the
you
legs.
are puffed, kick a top.
Yeah, true.
We have been handing out the Oracle, and I know you've given it to
Oh,
Duck,
yes.
but there was a case that I could have had it this week.
Oh.
It is a danger game. It is Gold Coast were poor, but they still had plenty of good looks, Gold Coast, against the Giants. Take out that first quarter. They've played pretty well in the other couple of games. I do think Gold Coast can win this. I do.
Are you
So
tipping
you're
them?
going to tip him?
Yeah, why not?
Oh.
There you go.
There you go.
Right.
Gold Coast. Right.
Generally requires a big call, though.
But you didn't tip him.
They were $2.40.
Oh, everyone
Mate,
tipped Carlton.
I got
you
North
actually
Melbourne
tip
home
Gold
after
Coast?
they didn't look
Yeah, he
like
did.
they could win a bloody
And I tipped it
game
in
of under
in my
footy.
tipping contest. I tipped them as well. So anyway, all right, no credit for that one. Fine, we'll try and find a bigger one this week. Let's start with tomorrow night or Thursday night, Easter Thursday at the Gabba, Brisbane, Collingwood. Can anyone see the Pies causing an upset?
No.
Nah, don't think so.
They do play well there, though.
Yeah, they have
done in recent times. Yeah.
Yep, absolutely. What about West Coast Sydney in Perth? West Coast Damo. The word is, as we speak,
Getting some players
Wednesday
back.
lunchtime, they might be getting almost all their midfield
Almost
back.
their starting midfield back, from COVID and COVID health protocols. I still will be going for Sydney in that game, but it's starting to turn for the Eagles.
I might go with West Coast in that game, actually. Haven't put my tips in yet, but early as of now, I'm going for West Coast.
Sydney are just going, Daisy. Their numbers, their profile is pretty ordinary for a team that have sort of top 4 expectations. They're only just going.
I think if you looked at West Coast profile, it would probably be worse than Sydney's at the moment, obviously for other reasons. But I think Sydney will still be too good. Buddy out. I don't really know.
Nick Nat
I
out.
don't know if that really hinders Sydney too much. Sometimes they get a bit too buddy conscious, and I think that's what sort of happened at the start last week. And then he got injured, and they found different avenues to goal.
If Nick Nat was playing, I'd probably tip West Coast. I think I'm just going to say Sydney, but only just. I think West Coast will take it right up to them. What about the Carlton-Port Adelaide game at the MCG? Daisy,
Well, I've got
making a big call?
I've got the hammer out, I've got the nails, and I've got the lid, and I've rammed it back on. Port Adelaide will win this game.
Their first win of the year.
Well, if they don't, they're buggered. So I think that it's their grand final. They've got more to lose. I think we've seen that. The Western Bulldogs, when they played the Swans, zipping 2, staring down, zipping 3 start to the season. Teams do find a bit when they're in this position. Port Adelaide have to do something. If they don't win this, I'll categorically say their season's buggered.
I just reckon they're shot after they
thought you were going
attempted
with something
something
else then.
different last week. No, there's an O in that word. I just can't see him. Not against Carlton this week.
No
so
Ollie Wines.
I'm disagreeing heatedly with you here, Days, on that outcome.
Carlton Morals.
Carlton morals.
No Crips. The Blues will lose.
No Crips. The Blues will lose. Well, you're
You're
going for Port even without Ollie Wines?
He thought that was a bit of lyrical genius.
No Crips. The Blues will lose.
Right. I think you do make a point. I think Port Adelaide have to fire like all their bullets and give it everything they've got now.
And Port Adelaide will be.
They did last week and they couldn't kick a goal.
No,
that's
they
against
didn't last
Melbourne.
week. They didn't. They
tried a few different things. They didn't play to their complete strengths last week. They were crap in the first half. There's no denying that.
I tipped
They
the
were
Blues.
trying not to lose last week rather than trying to win.
Yeah.
I think this week they have to go and try and
I
win.
tipped the Blues. It'd bugger up my other argument that Port Adelaide, you know.
Oh, yeah. You need to tip Port.
Don't forget the Michael Voss factor in it too, Joey.
You're right. He knows how Port want to play.
You were taken by that, weren't you?
No, I think it's a very good one. Hey, Essendon and Fremantle, you said earlier that you want to see Fremantle take a scalp. Is Essendon at Marvel a scalp or not really?
I think it's a win in the step in the right direction. I wouldn't call it a scalp, but I think Fremantle will win.
Yeah, I'm going for the same result there too.
Yep, Freo for me.
Yeah, Freo for me too. I think their defences are the best in the competition, or second behind Melbourne at the moment. I think that's all you got to do against Essendon. If you can stop them scoring, I think they should have no trouble scoring at the other end. And the last one, the big Easter Monday clash. What a rivalry it is. Hawthorn v Geelong. Surely no one can see Hawthorn beating the Cats, can they?
I can.
Oh,
Ooh.
Are you declaring them?
This is Oracle territory,
You want your
Joey.
Oracle back?
Well, if they get up, I'll have it back. I think they can cause a real upset. They always get up for this game. I always think back to when we used to play the D's on Queen's birthday. We were the better side. The D's were no real show, and they'd always run as close. Draws a couple of times, couple of point victories. Hawthorn will be really disappointed in what they served up on the weekend. They'll come back. Geelong hoping they're drinking a little bit of their own bathwater and the Hawks can come out and near on pinch
Given
it.
you've lost the Oracle status already this
Oh, well, I
year,
may as well
and
start
if,
shooting to the
if Hawthorn doesn't win this week, how many more weeks are you going to be banned from being Oracle?
Probably another 7 days.
Does it feel like he's clutching to try and get the Oracle back?
the Cats got
David?
a couple of big names back too. Remember?
Stuart and Selwood. And I don't think Geelong are a team that drink their own bathwater, Duck.
No,
I think they just go about
I
their
think they're
business and
pretty-
just
Well, I've
they
heard
just
this
notch
before
wins.
when I tipped Kangaroos to beat West Coast and I tipped the Pies to beat West Coast. Laughed
You
out of the
didn't touch.
studio.
You didn't touch on the Adelaide Richmond game for what it's worth.
If this doesn't happen,
I'm tipping an upset in that one.
Delete the audio.
I think Adelaide might upset.
Oh,
Richmond.
really? You
Yep.
think Adelaide can beat Richmond?
Yep.
Nice. That's a good game, actually.
Yeah, I think Richmond should win, and I'll be tipping them.
I think Richmond should win.
Yep, same.
Very good. Hey, good show. Another good edition. Enjoy your Easter, gents. I know we're all working, but hopefully you get the time to have a nice feed with the family.
Have a safe Easter.
Have a safe Easter as well. Everyone on the roads, make sure you drive safely. Of course, don't forget you can listen to every game across round 5 on Triple M and the Listener app, starting with tomorrow night's clash between Brisbane and Collingwood live from 7 p.m. Brian Taylor and Liam Flanagan will call it. Simon Black's there. Tom Brown, of course. Daisy's heading up for the trip. Just a quiet Thursday night for Daisy. Thanks for listening. Hope you enjoyed this edition of Triple M Footy's Midweek Rub.